Hey Quad Bros, what's going on guys? Welcome back to the channel. Glad you guys are joining me for another video. Now, today we're going to be jumping into BR1 for the Soviets, talking about what's the best loadout, what's the best setup that we can get. I wanted to get this out quick because I want to get on to the higher BRs because I think people are going to be getting out of BR1 pretty quick with the recent economy changes. So, just like the other factions, guys, this is only using stuff in BR1. We're not going to be using any radio operator squads or machine gun squads or anything like that that you unlock later on. This is just for stuff that you have in BR1. But, you know, if you have the radio operator squad, there's no reason you can't bring that into BR1 and still utilize that effectively, right? I'll leave that to you guys to kind of figure out. So, starting off, again, just like the other factions, we got to bring the medic squad. The medic squad is going to be our big firepower squad. It's going to be a squad that's going to do a lot of damage because they can use the SMGs. And the Soviets have pretty solid SMGs at BR1. They get much better as time goes on, and in honesty, this is kind of their weakest point. BR1, generally speaking, is the weakest point for the Soviets. But this is still really solid, okay? So we get the PPD-34. This is just a stick mag, and it does only have 25 rounds in the magazine, and with 800 rate of fire, you're going to just blow through the ammo really quickly. But it does a lot of damage. It does a lot of damage quickly, and its DPS is just so high that you're going to be able to win most fights that you take on against the Germans, especially at this low BR. So a good weapon to pick up a handful of them, at least to outfit your medics. We'll be able to move on to much better guns as time goes on. Our other option is the TOS-B, but we'll talk about the TOS-B and what I think is the best use of the TOS-B here in just a little bit. But I don't think that the TOS-B is better than the PPD-34. It's certainly more fun, and with how cheap guns are now with the economy changes, it's not a bad pickup. And if you want to use it and commit some war crimes with the shotgun, totally fine, and it's a lot of fun to use. So don't be afraid to pick up a couple of these if you're enjoying them. But that's going to bring us on to our engineer squad. So just like normal, our engineers are really important to bring. We want to have engineers in our lineup always because they can build rally points, they can build anti-tank guns, they can build AA guns, so on and so forth. They just have a lot of utility all wrapped up in one, on top of them being very efficient in terms of cost. So we're always going to want to bring engineers. Now we have a choice with what we want to use with our engineers. We can bring either the Mosin M91 Dragoon. We're going to want to bring this over the M1938 carbine or the M1907 carbine. This is just absolute hot trash. This is what you start with. It has terrible bolt speed. It doesn't do a lot of damage. It's got bad sights. It's just not a good gun overall. The M1938 shoots a little bit faster. You can see 42 versus 54. 54 is a respectable speed, but in my opinion, the Dragoon's extra damage on top, it has 48. It doesn't bolt the fastest, but it does just hit so hard that you'll just be killing people. So you kind of have a choice between these two if you want the faster bolt speed with the 1938 or if you want the higher hit power with the Dragoon. I personally prefer the Dragoon, but it's kind of up for debate there. Now, our third hidden choice is actually bringing the TOS-B shotgun. Like I mentioned before, the TOS-B isn't bad by any stretch. It gets outclassed, in my opinion, by the PPD-34, but if you bring all TOS-Bs in your engineer squad, you're kind of turning them into like a pseudo assault squad, and they can rack up some serious damage and do some serious damage when you bring all TOS-Bs. So that's kind of a really interesting and fun thing that you can do with specifically the Soviets and the Germans with the Luftwaffe shotgun that I definitely have done on occasion. So not a bad choice. If you prefer a more aggressive playstyle and you don't want to stay back with a rifle, right, then bringing the TOS-B can be super, super fun. So I definitely recommend that. And then for our third flex slot, I'd recommend bringing an AT squad. The Soviets don't have the best anti-tank. I think that would go to the Japanese, but the PTRD-41, even though it is just single shot, does have good pin. It's a lot of fun to use, and you're going to want to use it just to kind of get used to using anti-tank rifles because you'll be using the PTRS-41 later on. And I think the PTRS is good. It does get outclassed by the bazooka, but we'll talk about that later. But regardless, the PTRD-41 has 40 armor pin, so it can definitely pin most German tanks, at least from the side, and things like the Panzer II can easily be detonated with the PTRS. So it's something that you're definitely going to want to bring, and with being able to bring, you know, a 6-man squad with PTRDs, or half of them with PTRDs and the rest with, you know, just some Dragoons or some carbines, depending on your personal preference. definitely a good setup and a good thing to do. So that's what we're going with there. That's our 3 infantry squads. Moving on to our vehicles, the Soviets have some very good choices in vehicles. It may not seem like it, but this starting plane, the I-153 biplane, is actually really, really good. You're going to want to either choose between bringing this I-153, or you can instead bring the Hurricane Mark II-B. The Hurricane does come with some RBS 82s. I'm not a huge fan of them on the Hurricane, and they're just not quite that good. You can also bring the Yak-1. The Yak-1 has some 100 kg bombs, as well as having cannons on it. It's just a great fighter. Really, really good. But my personal preference is bringing the I-153. The reason for this is because it just goes so slowly. And I know this sounds weird. It goes so slowly that it makes landing those RBSs so easy. And it means that because these machine guns are nose mounted, they're just a breeze to fire. So it just makes this plane actually really, really, really good at close air support. Like, way better at close air support than you'd really expect it to be. I have some videos using this thing and doing some serious damage with it. So go ahead and check those out if you want to see kind of how that playstyle works. But I would recommend bringing this. If you don't want to be flying, however, then the T-70 is also a fantastic choice. A lot of these tanks are good choices. The T-60 is fine as well. If you want that autocannon, it has less armor on it, so that's kind of why I'm leaning towards the T-70. And if you want more speed and you want to trade armor for speed, then the BT-7 is also a good choice. Being able to zoom around the map is pretty fun, but at the end of the day, the maps in Enlisted just aren't really suited to taking advantage of the speed that the BT-7 has, so I would definitely recommend instead bringing the up-armored and kind of more defended T-70, even though it has also just 2 crews. So that is that in terms of the Soviets. Pretty quick overall. The Soviets are not a complicated faction, generally speaking, especially not at BR1 where they are the weakest, right? When they start getting BR2, we start, picking up things like the PPS-43 and the Winchester, which just makes it really, really powerful, and the faction overall just gets a big boost. But for BR1, it's pretty much just the Dragoon and the TAS-B party, right? And maybe the PPD-34 if you're choosing to bring that. Your vehicles are decent, and they can fight off most German tanks and planes, but they're really not anything particularly amazing at BR1. They're just okay, right? So that is it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. While you're there, like and subscribe for more of these deep dives. Let me know which faction you guys want going next. We've finished all 4 of our main factions here for BR1. So what do you guys want to see for BR2 coming probably later this week or maybe next week? We'll see how my schedule works out there. But without anything else, let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.